What is going on, friends? Welcome into another edition of Sports from the Couch and the Sports Cubicle. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. And on this edition, we are finally going to do the win-loss segment that you've all been waiting for on the 2025 Chicago Bears schedule. But we're doing a little bit of a twist, right? Everybody has fun doing the win-loss, win-loss, win-loss thing. And it's great content, it's great fodder, and it's a lot of fun. But what I want to do is I kind of want to break it down into segments. I want to break it down, not necessarily game by game, but what I think the vibes are going to be as these matchups go on. The importance of the matchups, the importance of the grouping of these games for the 2025 Chicago Bears. So I think that was a way for us to do this where it isn't just so repetitive like all the other great podcasts that you're going to listen to. And I wanted to put a little spin to it. But speaking of awesome podcasts, if you would like more Bears content like this, but with even greater knowledge coming from some of the other hosts, my co-hosts, you could check out Bear Era right here on YouTube at Bear Era Podcast, or wherever you get your favorite podcast at Bear Era, brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network and our friends over at Homage. It's myself, Mike Mercado, Kieran Hall from the Irish Bear Show, and EJ Snyder from Bootleg Football, breaking down all the news of the Chicago Bears and talking to some of the best minds in the industry covering the sports each week of this season and some special shows throughout the offseason. So check us out if you want over at Bear Era Podcast. Don't forget to buy the book. You know, we are here in the nursery studios. So if you would like to see my child go to college, check out luchadog.com, go to Amazon, buy the book. We really appreciate all the support. And of course, the support you're showing us at the Sports Cubicle, our radio show right here in Chicago. It's myself, Mike Mercado, Paul Chivari, Devin Tingle, and Dan Marver, breaking down all the major sports stories, both locally and nationally, at the end of the week in a way where it is a lot of fun and informative. But speaking of informative, that's enough plugging. Let's get right into this schedule, and it starts with week 1 and week 2 of the NFL season for the Chicago Bears as they kick off this campaign first against the Minnesota Vikings at home, and then heading to Detroit in week 2 against the Detroit Lions. So week 1 against the Vikings, it's going to be JJ McCarthy. It's going to be a team that now has been interesting enough in the news for the Chicago Bears when it comes to controversy, because we did see that Kevin O'Connell's name came up in that article about Caleb Williams not wanting to come to Chicago, about the Williams family being really anti heading to Chicago, rightfully so. You could actually check out the video on the YouTube channel right here if you missed our thoughts on that. But a really, really tough way to start the season. And for the Vikings themselves, it is going to be a test for the young rookie who tore his ACL and does show a lot of promise. But is he an NFL quarterback? That is JJ McCarthy. We know that Justin Jefferson might be the best player in the NFL, pound for pound, right? We know that the coaching staff of Minnesota is always going to have their team prepared. We know that they are going to be a team that plays defense and they're going to be well coached. We know all the cliches about Minnesota. For the Chicago Bears, for Ben Johnson to start up a season with such a test is a way to what I believe is the litmus test, not necessarily how the rest of the season will go, but how the offseason went. You see, one of the big things that was Matt Eberflus, Mark Trestman, Matt Nagy, name whatever coach over the last decade, was how training camp went for the Chicago Bears. And there was always something weird going on. Somebody was playing where they heard what they heard. What was the depth chart? It was always something going on. And for the Bears to kick off their season on ESPN on Monday Night Football against the Minnesota Vikings is not only a test on the field, but it's a test of everything that led up to that game. How were they during OTAs, rookie minicamp, training camp? How did this coaching staff, which is what I believe the strong point of this team, as much talent as this team has, this coaching staff put together seems to be the best group collection, again, per pound. And this is a test for them more than anybody. So a tough week 1. But it's no easy going after that. Week 2, you're going to Detroit, and you're taking on the Detroit Lions. Again, a test for Detroit, where they are now going to be without Ben Johnson. How are they going to respond with the guy who's in charge now of the team you're playing not running your offense? What's it going to look like for Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs? What's it going to look like for Amon-Ra St. Brown? What's it going to look like for Williams? What's it for any of these guys? They have Aiden Hutchinson coming back from a horrible injury. Dan Campbell's going to need to do a heck of a job to coach this team, to put them together. And this is where we do the win-loss. A week 1 and week 2 matchup starting off on Monday Night Football and then bouncing right back, going to Ford Field, a team that's going to look to right some wrongs, especially the way they were bounced out in the playoffs last year in Detroit. It is no easy matter for the Bears. But I do think there are path to victories for both of these games. I think a questionable rookie like J.J. McCarthy, and not necessarily that he doesn't have the talent, but we haven't seen him done it yet. And this is a Bears defense that is a good secondary, that has revamped its defensive line. Obviously, we've seen and could use some help in the linebacker aspect, but all that being equal, this is going to be a well-run Dennis Allen defense that a rookie, even though it's his sophomore year, never played in the NFL, is going to have to figure out. You know Justin Jefferson's going to get his, but I think this is a chance for the Bears to start 2-0. Realistically, I think they go 1-1. So the first 2 weeks of the season in this block, I have the Bears going 1-1. And I think they're going to win the Minnesota Vikings game, and I think they're going to lose the Detroit Lions game. I think they, on Monday Night Football, with all the hype, they're going to establish the run. I still think they're going to get a veteran running back as of this recording. I think they're going to have a really strong game plan. I think you're giving Ben Johnson all this time in the world to plan against this defense, and Dennis Allen all this time in the world to go against Kevin O'Connell and J.J. McCarthy. So I like, if the Bears coaching staff is as good as we think they are, if this is a turning point for the Chicago Bears, I think they win week 1. I think week 2, they lose. I think this is an emotional game for the Lions. I think the Lions are going to scratch and claw every single game that they're in. They have a lot of talent, but they're going to have a lot of questions losing Glenn and Johnson as their defensive offensive coordinator. Again, a lot of pressure on Dan Campbell. So I'm going with the Bears being 1-1, and I think they win game 1 against the Vikings, but lose game 2 against the Detroit Lions. So let's go on to this next grouping. These are the 4 weeks, 3 games that I'm putting together. It is week 3 against the Dallas Cowboys. That is America's game of the week. It is week 4 against the Las Vegas Raiders on CBS, their first 325 game on CBS against the AFC opponent. Week 5 bye. We'll get to that in a second. And then after that bye, we're going to get into the most diabolical part of their schedule. That is against the Washington Commanders. So the Dallas Cowboys, always a big game. Always going to have the big announcers, the big pageantry. It's going to be an interesting game for Dak Prescott, who now has multiple weapons at wide receiver. So this is going to be a test defensively again. So you're starting off the week like the first 2 weeks we talked, and it's not an easy come down. But I don't think anybody's going to sit there and be like, the Dallas Cowboys are a horrible, tough nightmare matchup. The Dallas Cowboys are firmly kind of where the Bears are, where they can be really good or they could be a little sus. This is a game the Bears can win. I expect the Chicago Bears to win this game at Soldier Field. I expect them to get to Dak Prescott. I expect them to stuff the run. I expect them to have a lot of pressure on them, and I expect a lot of pressure on the Dallas Cowboys before this game even starts. So I think there's a really good chance that the Bears come out of this game against the Dallas Cowboys with all eyes on them with the victory. I have the Bears beating the Dallas Cowboys. I have the Bears also beating the Las Vegas Raiders the very next week. Ashton Jency with now coming on board. You have Geno Smith now coming on board. And more importantly, right, you have Pete Carroll, now the man in charge of the Las Vegas Raiders. And you've seen it more now than ever that Tom Brady is moving things around. going to try to make this a winner. I don't know if the Raiders are going to be any good anytime soon. I do know they have a really tough division. I do know Geno Smith is a nice quarterback. He's a professional quarterback. Nobody's going to disrespect Geno, but he is not Patrick Mahomes, and he is not Justin Herbert, and he doesn't have the potential, obviously, that we think Bo Nix might have. So it's going to be an uphill battle for the Vegas Raiders all season long. And knowing the simple fact that it's going to be a tough season for them all season long, and you get to go to Vegas with this team, it's going to be a home game for the Chicago Bears because it's going to be more than 50-50. It's going to be 60-40, 65-35 Bears fans. I think the Bears win that game. So it's looking good so far heading into what I think is the worst thing about their schedule, which is a week 5 bye. In my reality, you've come off of some tough games and you've won some really tough matchups and you've taken care of business on other matchups. But right away, you're in a bye, an early bye. Not enough time to recover as the season's going to go on. There are going to be big-time injuries on every NFL roster all season long. And they always come at the worst time. That is why it's a miracle when any team wins any championship in any sport, no matter the level, no matter the gender. But a week 5 bye, you don't get the benefit of, all right, we have some sprained ankles, some sprained shoulders, people have some aches. It's week 11. We have a week coming up, a week 12 bye, going into some tough matchups in week 13. It's cold outside. We have X amount of time. Okay, we're good. Like, we can really take advantage of that. You don't even have a lot of film. You're still trying to figure out your team and the rest of the teams in the NFL. It's only been 4 weeks of games. So I think the worst part of the schedule, and it is a tough schedule for the Chicago Bears, is having a bye week in week 5. And the diabolical counsel that makes the NFL schedule, putting this game on Monday Night Football in Virginia, Washington. It is the Chicago Bears and the Washington Commanders, week 6 on Monday Night Football. And look, the NFL knows how to make a great story, right? Like, they know how to promote its league and put its stars out there and its stories out there. The Bears going back to Washington on a primetime game where both teams last season in that same stadium, their seasons turned around. Jaden Daniels versus Caleb Williams. There is so much to digest and love and celebrate about this game, and there's so much to be terrified about. I think long-term, Caleb Williams might do more, let's say, consistent goodness to greatness compared to Jaden Daniels. I think Jaden Daniels has more of that flash, could do something great really fast, maybe not for a long time potential. I think Caleb has the longevity. So you have that matchup between the two of them. But I think the Bears are a better team than Washington. And that's no disrespect to the Washington Commanders. The Washington Commanders are a really good team. We saw what they did in the playoffs. They can win a Super Bowl. But a diabolical test. The NFL is putting on both these teams. They're like, here, star quarterbacks. Here, interesting dynamics. Tyreek Stevenson's still on the team. The new coaching staff, how do they coach the players, all the players that are back from that team, to getting over that? How do they overcome that emotion? How does Washington not rest on the laurels and believe that they have to win that game? Because it did take a freak miracle play for the Commanders to win that game. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful schedule making by the NFL, but absolutely evilness. But I have the Washington Commanders winning this game against the Chicago Bears. I don't think it's going to be one of these games that the Chicago Bears are shook. I do believe that it's going to be a close game, but I do think Jaden Daniels has something special about him. And I do think playing in Washington on Monday Night Football, is going to have that type of storybook, NFL films type of thing happens. The Bears are going to get theirs against somebody on the schedule. I think this is Washington's. So I have the Commanders beating the Bears in that game. And a quick update after that block of games, after the bye week leading into the Washington game, I currently, after that Washington game on Monday Night Football, have the Bears at 3-2 going into week 7. And we continue on with the Chicago Bears schedule breakdown here on the Sports Cubicle and Sports from the Couch. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Please make sure you like, rate, review, subscribe to us wherever you get your favorite podcasts, add Sports from the Couch, and of course, subscribe to us right here on YouTube. Leave a comment down below. Tell me, what is your favorite team, the team that you follow, and the record you believe they're going to have this coming up season. And if you want some more Bear content, check us out over on YouTube at Bear Era Podcast, brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network and our great sponsors over at Homage. It's myself, Mike Mercado, Kieran Hall from the Irish Bear Show, and EJ Snyder from Bootleg Football, breaking down all the Bears news, all the Bears games, and talking to the best writers, some of the best beat reporters, some of the best insiders that you see on all the major networks right here on Bear Era Podcast. So check us out on YouTube at Bear Era Pod. In this 3-week block, in week 7, week 8, and week 9, I believe the Bears need to win in week 7 against New Orleans, who might be one of the worst teams in the NFL, right? Like one of the bottom teams trying to find a quarterback, trying to reestablish and redevelop and restructure their franchise. So I think you walk away with a victory there for the Chicago Bears. But then the Bears have 2 stretches in this schedule in the second half of their season that are just daunting, that are going to make or break a divisional run, a wild card run. And that's week 8, and starting with week 8 and week 9, the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore, and then the next week, the Cincinnati Bengals at Cincinnati. I think let's just start off the jump. I think they're going to lose both games. I don't think you're crazy. You could be the most diehard of Bears fan. On face value, off of vibes, off of history, I don't think you're crazy. Just right away, first guess, what comes to mind, I think that's 2 losses. But for the Chicago Bears, it's a pick your poison week 8 against Baltimore. Do you want Derrick Henry to beat you, or do you want Lamar Jackson to beat you? I think Lamar Jackson is one of the top 4 players in the National Football League. But I would take my chances, specifically as a Chicago Bears team, having him beat me than Derrick Henry. And part of it is, I do believe Derrick Henry, if he gets past, I don't think the defensive line, they might be good at run stopping, but I believe it's one of these things where Derrick Henry, in 1 or 2 plays, can break your spirit on defense by breaking a tackle on your defensive line, on the offensive line, on the point of attack, make a linebacker miss, and he's off to the races. I believe that's more likely than Lamar Jackson being able to put 6 points on the board with his receivers. Not that they can't, but against the Bears specifically, against that defense, I see Derrick Henry having more of a breakout game than Lamar Jackson. That doesn't mean Lamar Jackson won't go for 250 yards, 120 yards running, and 2 touchdowns rushing. But I can see those 2 touchdowns rushing based off of, Derrick Henry having a 60-yard run, a 70-yard run. I see that more of a thing to happen. So if you're going to beat Baltimore, if you're going to upset them in Baltimore, it's going to be stopping Derrick Henry and hoping that Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson's offense, with all the skill players and the offensive line that you've rebuilt and invested in, can keep up with Lamar, can keep up with Harbaugh, can keep up with Derrick Henry. That's all you can do in that matchup. Now, even though I do have the Ravens winning, and now I do have the Bengals winning in week 9, I do think you could beat Cincinnati. I do think more than in this case, Jamar Chase is going to get his. Whether it's Jalen, whether it's Gordon, you name your guy, right? Jamar is going to get his 100, probably get his touchdown. There's a great chance Joe Burrow is going to get his normal stat line. but they're going to give you opportunities to win. This is a matchup against Cincinnati, who should have probably been in the playoffs had things worked out a little differently. They are beatable because they put themselves in positions to be beatable. So for the Chicago Bears, it's more along the lines of not just keeping up, whereas in for Baltimore, you're trying to negate one poison, one end of a sword, of a double-edged sword, to allow the other chance a 50-50 shot of beating you, playing their best game, hoping they don't make a mistake. Cincinnati will make a mistake. Their defense will allow you to score. Joe Burrow will have to put the ball in the air. As many times as Jamar Chase or T. Higgins are going to make these spectacular plays and they're going to put points on the board, it's just as likely, because they have to be so aggressive, they're going to give you opportunities to get the ball back. They're going to give you chances to put points on the board on defense. And then on offense, you just got to run your game plan. I think Ben Johnson's going to be licking his chops. So even though I think they're going to lose both games, I think that Week 9 matchup is a great chance if you're going to have an upset for the Chicago Bears to have that. And we move on to just this one matchup, Week 10. If you're going to, against the New York Giants, if you're going to lose, if the Bears are going to end up losing those two games against the Ravens and the Bengals, you have to beat the Giants. And this is the most get right games. This is the most get things back on track, and let's make sure we fix any of the leaks. There's no such thing as a bye week in the NFL. There's no such thing as an easy week in the NFL. But if there's ever one in your schedule from 20,000 feet in the air, from the ivory tower, before we play the game, this is it in Week 10. Play a smart game, be on point on defense, control the ball, no dumb penalties, and you will take care of home field against the Giants, and it'll be an easy win. Hope you win 24-10. Nothing crazy. 31-13. Call it a day. And then after 10 weeks, I have the Bears at 5-9. Excuse me, at 5-4 after playing 9 games. And I think that's a really good schedule. That's a nice place to be with what I believe is the second of the two worst parts of their schedule, the meat grinder of their schedule. Week 11 against the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota. Week 12 against the Pittsburgh Steelers and Soldier Field. Week 13 against the reigning defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles in the city of brotherly love. And week 14, the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field. So obviously when you see the Super Bowl champions on Black Friday, on Amazon, in Philadelphia, that's where your eyes go directly. But let's start again with Minnesota. You're going, I believe, to at the very least split with Minnesota. So I believe this is where the Bears end up being at 500. They lose to the Vikings in Minnesota. McCarthy would have enough time if he's developing the right way. And, you know, at this point, the Bears have played a lot of games without a bye week. So I think if Minnesota, if they are going to split, I think it's going to be home and home. Week 12 against the Steelers, I think this is where the Bears finally beat an AFC North team. But it's not necessarily, I think, going to be easy. I don't think Pittsburgh is all that good. But it's a great organization with a great head coach. And if Aaron Rodgers goes there, there is a real chance that they can surprise you. And this is the game that they need at the end of the season that got them to above 500 or right at 8 wins or whatever crazy Mike Tomlin stat it is. You need to win, Pittsburgh. If you want to keep pace and allow yourself an opportunity to be a wild card, to have a playoff aspirations, you need to win this Pittsburgh game. And then the Philadelphia game on Black Friday. Look, and I would love for them to be upset a dog that everybody's favoring. I would love to come here and tell you right now, week 13, bet the Bears to go to Philadelphia and upset them. There's no chance. Philadelphia is just too good right now. Unless I see otherwise. Unless I see somebody be able to stop that tush push. Unless I see somebody finally able to make all that rattling and all that shakiness that the entire season always is for the Philadelphia Eagles, and yet somehow they're able to pull it together, I won't believe it. I won't believe it. Too much talent on defense, too much talent on offense. They've been there, they've been to the big dance, they've lost it, and they've won it. What else can you ask from them? So I don't think you're winning that game. But here we have the Chicago Bears and the Green Bay Packers. And call me a homer, call me dumb, tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. But I believe that the Chicago Bears are going to beat the Green Bay Packers. I believe that the Green Bay Packers are going to, again, great coaching at Lambeau Field. But that aura that I believe I think Caleb Williams lives for those games. The games against Washington, the games against Houston, where he makes these last-minute drives. Winning at Green Bay and upsetting them at the end of the season. I think the Bears are better than the Packers. I'm not saying the Packers aren't good. I'm not saying the Packers can't win the NFC North. But I think the Bears are going to win this game at Lambeau Field. And I think after the murder's row that they've had the last few weeks, I think this is one of their statement games. I have the Chicago Bears winning this game in Green Bay. And we get to the last block of the season, the week 15 through week 18. And I put these because of kind of the randomness and some of the games that you could really put into your bank that can help you get to the NFL playoffs. Cleveland Browns. What are we going to say here? We're just going to say it's a win. I mean, unless there's a miracle, unless Shador's the guy, unless one of their 18 quarterbacks is the dude. I mean, obviously defense travels, but week 15 at Soldier Field, they're not going to be playing for anything. They're going to be playing for what they're hoping for is something in the draft or something in development. I have the Bears winning in week 15. And in week 16, the Green Bay Packers coming to Lambeau Field. Bears are sweeping the Packers this year. I have the Bears winning this game as well. Again, I just think the tides have turned. I believe Caleb, and this is a Caleb thing. This is a Ben Johnson thing. I think they're not intimidated by Green Bay. I think they like playing Green Bay. I think they like the idea of being their antagonist. And at home, if they're on the pace I believe they're going to be on, then this is a game they have to win. And it's a game to send Bears fans happy if you are going to miss the game, if you're going to miss the playoffs by a game or two, to really stick it to the Packers by another late season win for them. I think all eyes are going to be on this game. I think the Bears are winning that one. This is a game I think it's going to be tough for the Bears. It's always a tough matchup. San Francisco, week 17 in California. And this will be on NBC, a Sunday night matchup. I have the 49ers in this game. It's always tough for the Bears to go to the West Coast. This is a team that's well coached. They're going to find a running back. They're going to find a gem. They're going to find a way to be in games. Their defense is going to be good. This is a well-run organization. It's just one of those things, right? You can't really describe it. Like, there are great analysts out there that are going to give you all the analytical ways the Bears can win, all the ways the 49ers can win. But all I can tell you is the same thing that you're probably seeing, is that the eye test tells you every single year that's a tough place for the Chicago Bears to go. It's a tough place for any team to go. And late in the season, when both teams are hopefully, in their minds, trying to play for playoff positions, it's a tough place to win. So I'm going with the 49ers in that one. And finally, week 18, to be decided when it's going to be played, but it will be played at Soldier Field. So we will see if it will be prime time. It will be noon. It is the Bears and the Lions. I have the Bears winning this one. The split happens, and this is where I think it all kind of comes together. All the emotion of the second week of the season for Ben Johnson going back to Detroit and their team trying to kind of push back and show that they're still doing. I think the Bears are a good team, and if they're this far in the season trying to be a potential playoff team, they have to win this game, right? And this typically feels like, this is starting to feel like other divisions where there's a lot of splits, home and home. And I know in the NFL, it's kind of 50-50 now on home field advantage. But this is where I think the Bears get their win at home against the Detroit Lions. What's going to be our expectations? What do you want to see from this team? What if they only win 7 games? What if they only win 8 and are under 500? What if they're just above 500 but miss the playoffs? What if they win double-digit games, but the NFC is just so top-heavy that they don't make a run? They're out in the wild card. They miss the playoffs. What do you want to see? I can tell you personally, as of now, as of the summer of 2025, heading into the season, I want to see a jump from Caleb Williams. I want to see aggressiveness from Caleb Williams. I want to see this offensive line be able to hold its end and protect the quarterback. I want to see this defense put pressure on the other team's QB. I want to see the defense put points on the board, turn the field over, give a helping hand to their young quarterback. I want to see Ben Johnson and see how he can use his skill, his mindset, and his scheme to elevate the talent on offense. I want to see the Chicago Bears take a step forward. Wins are nice, and they are expected. You're in the NFL. This is pro sports. You're expected to win. But I also want to see sustained success. And that comes step by step by building a foundation. And if that means only winning 8 games, 7 games, 9 games, so be it. As long as we see growth, we see development and maturity for the first time in a long time for the Chicago Bears. We want to know your thoughts. What do you think the Chicago Bears end their season with their record as? What is your favorite team going to end their season like? Let us know down in the comment section below. Give us a like, please. It really helps us out. Subscribe to us right here on YouTube at The Sports Cubicle. Want more Bears content? Check us out over at Bear Era Podcast on YouTube. Please subscribe to us there as well. It's Kieran Hall from the Irish Bears Show, EJ Snyder from Bootleg Football, and myself, Mike Mercado, talking to some of the best minds in the NFL. You see them all over the world, wherever you get your favorite sports. They join us every single week throughout the NFL season, and we do some shows and live streams throughout the offseason to check up with each and every one of you. So check us out over at Bear Era Podcast. Please take care of yourself. Take care of each other. We will see you next time here on Sports from the Couch and the Sports Cubicle. I'm your host, Mike Mercado.